Racetech fork emulators. What do we know about them? We know they look like this. They're called valve cartridges, and they're designed to allow your oil to go through different holes at different rates of stroke in the suspension. So we're going to put them on the KLR. Make sure you loosen your fork cap before you loosen your triple trees. You will not be able to break it loose. There we go. Use the fork clamps to pin the fork. Taking this fork off. Let the air out, pull your fork cap. Okay, so here's your fork cap. It's going to be under spring load, so it's going to want to pop up. Be ready for it. These are the progressive fork springs that I put in it. I want most of the oil to go down in there, not all over my shop. Let that do that for a second. So I'm going to take the spring, put it over here. All these parts have to be cleaned meticulously before we put it all back together. It would be a good time to go ahead and pull your dust cap off. There's a little O-ring in, a little snap ring in there. I'll show you what I mean. Take something like this. Make sure you can see. You see right here? That's a little ring keeper. You gotta pull that out. Don't damage the rubber though with something sharp like this. Be careful. You're gonna pull that out. Looks like my seals have been leaking. Look at that. Shouldn't be any oil there. Don't lose that. And then there's a nut down here, a bolt called your dampener rod bolt, and I'll show you in a minute. You're gonna loosen that, take that out, and then you're gonna slam the forks and it's gonna separate this seal. All right. So let's get this spring out. I've got a container And I'm just gonna turn this upside down. Now what I like to do is just let it set. Make sure it don't fall. That's the dampener rod bowl I was telling you about. So we're gonna let that sit a second, let all that oil come on out. We want as much of it out of there as possible. That way we don't have a oily mess everywhere. So let that drain for a minute. When you go online and you order from Race Tech, you're gonna put in your make and model, and they're gonna see if they even have valve cartridges for your model bike. Mine's a 1999 KLR 650, and they had them, okay? And so they send this as the front page, and then that's from the progressive springs I put in. So they give you a list of things, 1, 2, 3, 4. It shows you how the valve is supposed to sit on top of your dampening rod. You have to drill 2 holes in your dampening rod, and I'll show you in just a minute how I do that. But what's cool is they have my name on this paperwork. They've got my bike, they've got my name, they've got my weight, what kind of riding I do, novice. I prefer it a little softer than, and I got a standard gas tank because of the weight. They tell you all of the oil level, the compression adjust out, rebound adjuster, and on this spec sheet, they tell you again your bike, your name, what information you gave them when you ordered it. They give you the part number of the part that they sent you. They tell you what kind of dampening rods. Mine are KYB 38C. And what they do is they send a valve, which is a FEG4 3801. I confirmed that on the box. They call it a fork emulator. And their suggestion, based on my weight and my riding style, is a blue spring, 4 turns preload, 4 bleed holes. So if we go over here to the kit they sent these springs that are all different colors. This is a yellow spring, and mine's gonna be the blue spring. So right here is my spring that's going on the emulator. And it's calling for 4 bleed holes. That's this one right here. So when they send your kit, but you have the option of changing it all out. If you get it set up the way that you told them you want it, and it's not to your liking, you can add stiffer springs, you can add the other spacer that only has 2 bleed holes. In other words, it's all adjustable. This is your adjustment screw that determines how easy the valve opens up to let the oil in and out, or how stiff or how aggressive. That's what makes these things awesome, especially for a 1999 KLR 650. With the stock setup, the forks would bottom out horrifically, and my front end was all over the place. So there was a huge upgrade with just the progressive springs, but I'm going all out. So again, they tell you exactly what you need to do. You just follow the directions. You get this when you sign up for your fork emulators that come from Race Tech. They give you a control number. You go on their website, follow the directions based on your control number, and it takes you to this DVS sheet. And like I said, this is what they had in their system for me. My name, everything. You print this out. Is very important, so you understand how to set this up based on your weight and your riding preference. So that's what we're going to do right now. While our fork is draining, we're going to go ahead and set this cartridge up with the way that it's spec'd out for my riding style. And so to take off the fork spring, or to take the preload spring out that I don't want, you're going to get you a 9mm, put it on this lock nut, and it tells you how to do all this. And turn the Allen screw. And pay attention to the parts that are in there so you don't lose them. Okay, let's see what we got. We got 2 washers. We got 3 washers on top of that spring. Okay. Now I have the lock nut right here. Came out. I'm gonna set it there so I don't lose it. And now I'm gonna pull this out. You see that it's got 2 holes. Okay? This is your cartridge right here. This has 2 holes. I'm gonna take that one off and see how it's set on there. I want to duplicate the same way. But I want the blue spring. So I'm gonna take the yellow spring off. I'm gonna replace it with a blue spring. I'm gonna put the 4 holes bleeder valve on there. Make sure it seats in that spring. Then gonna pick up my valve cartridge. Uh-oh. There we go. And we are going to put this all back together. Just like this. And now it's saying 4 turns on the preload. What they mean is the moment that right here the spring's loose, it's loose. Well, you're going to cinch it to where it's not loose anymore, starting to snug up. And then I'm going to turn 4 rotations. You have to pay attention. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 4 rotations. I think I went a little more. I'll go a little more. See what I'm saying? So let's, and then you put your lock nut back on, and now that's how easy it is to change these valves to my riding style. I'll put it in the bike, I'll check it out. If it's too soft or I don't like something about it, I'll just pull the cap, pull the spring out, get a magnet, pull the cartridge up, make some new springs, adjust it tighter, looser. It's awesome. Okay, so Kawasaki talks about buying this adapter rod with that cone looking metal wedge that goes on the end. The purpose is that right there on your dampening rod, you need to wedge that thing down in there. When you hit this dampening rod bolt, this will just spin inside the forks unless you can pin it. I'm gonna hit it with some compressed air so I can jar it and break it loose. And I fabricated a piece of PVC. I ground it so that it'll wedge in there and hold it. So I set this in there. I hit it hard. You see how it's stuck? It's wedged in that rod now. Make sure you're on takeoff and not put on. And then I'm gonna hit this with this air and make sure I'm on reverse. Try to break it loose. So it's not breaking loose. You turn this thing up. It's up as high as it'll go. So this one's in there good. We got it. going to have a crushed washer on it. Don't lose the washer. They recommend you replace it, but I'm not going to. I'm going to put it away though so I don't lose it. Now, this is very important. To get that seal, we pulled the keeper ring out. It sits in a groove. Wipe your forks off good so you don't have debris. You don't want to mess up that seal. Make sure also this is smooth, guys. You don't want burrs and stuff on it to mess up that seal. But then what you're going to do is you're going to hit it. See that? And then what you do is you pull this. This is a bottoming out bushing. And now this rod will come out. There's going to be a spring. Remember how it goes together. And that's it, folks. And there's your seals. Here's your dampening rod. That's the tool. I developed this thing to go in there and hold it. See how it's, if you can get a socket or something or a bolt rod, well, anyway, you get the idea. So now I'm going to take this rod and this, and I'm going to put it in my solvent tank. Ugh, what a mess. I'll wash my hands off. Messy. So I'm gonna clean all this up and I'll be back in a minute. Now that the solvent's cleaned it all out, I'm going to hit it with some parts cleaner. It evaporates quickly. Do not put this on your fork seals though. This stuff's a good cleaner. It'll evaporate super fast, but I don't think it's any good for rubber. Now I'll hit it with his air. It'll dry out really fast. Leaving no residue is the point. The carb cleaner will it'll rinse all the the solvent. And the solvent I use is not harmful for parts or anything. It's a part cleaning solvent. That is a dry tube. So this is a 20, I believe, a 20 millimeter socket, nut. Basically, the manual talks about an alternative to having to buy this. Adapter, lock axle holder, jaws, blah, blah, remove the dampener rod, remove the string. 24 millimeter nut. So you can retrofit something on this and it'll hold that dampening rod, because you got to torque that dampening rod bolt. You got to torque it back at 29 pounds. And that PVC wants to slip when you get around, well, it won't get up to 29, it slips. So this will work I just got to figure out a way to lock it on a rod. Hey, check, you know, look at your parts and stuff, you know, to make sure that nothing's bent funny, nothing's worn funny, you know. Make sure this isn't all mushroomed out. Make sure this collar right here, your dampening out collar, isn't all bent and busted up. Make sure everything looks good. You'll be able to tell. You know, investigate it. Now I've got to drill holes into this rod. I got to drill a hole up here. Wade explains that I need 6 holes. Three sets of 2 holes. New holes should be spaced actually lengthwise above the existing holes at a 10mm increments. Each set of 2 holes must be perpendicular to the last set so as not to weaken the rod. After drilling, chamfer and defer, clean it all up after you guys drill it out. So it is a total of 6 holes. So I will need to drill right through here the same distance. Like whatever this is to here, I got to do that up here. And I got to drill right through that rod. And those are my rebound holes. And they're open. Cool. So that's what this drill bit's for. I'm gonna drill that rod. Don't let it scare you. This one's got 2 already. So I'm gonna drill another set like right here, straight through. And one of these is handy. Wow, that's a big ant. Dang, dude. Come on. So basically, I'm gonna be setting my dampening rod into here, about like that. I'm gonna put a rag on there. And then I'm going to drill a hole straight through that dampening rod. So I'm going to check the distance of these holes right here. I'm going to calibrate my thing to 0. And then I'm going to go from, I'm going to eyeball from center to center. Okay, so right there's 10. From the bottom of this hole to the bottom of this hole is, they're saying 10mm. So I'm gonna lock that in. So it's from the bottom of this hole, basically where that line is, to the bottom of the other hole is 10mm. So what I'm gonna do is come up here. Come up here. Oh, there's a bug on my neck. And I'm gonna make a mark on my rod See it right there? So that will be that mark will be the bottom of my next mark. It's 10, 10. So 10. Or 20 if we go up and on the calibrator. Okay, and we go to 20. Ooh, sensitive. I think my battery's dying. Well, ain't no good. I think I'm close though. I think my battery's messing up. There we go. We'll go back. See, we were at 20.25. Let's zero it back to 0 and open it up to 20. Okay, that's close enough for me. So I want this hole up here. I want it right here. Right there. That's where I want that hole they're talking about. Flashes in the sky. So now I'm going to drill my my rod. At least I think I am. You want 6 holes. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's what we got. Okay, when you put your fork all back together, you can use the diagram in your book. Follow exactly how it goes. When you slide your seals back on, make sure the tube is clean and you lubricate the seals. So I've put my put my rod holder, you know, my dampening rod bolt back in there. I haven't torqued it. I just put it in there to hold the dampening rod so the forks don't come apart. If you've gotten this far, you should be okay. There's my scraper. There's my fork seal. So I'm gonna slide my scraper over and make sure this is lubricated and clean and not all gummed up. If it's dirty and nasty, you're gonna scratch your seal. So get you a piece of PVC pipe. This is 1.5 inch schedule 40. Fits over your tube, and it's what's going to seat that seal for me. So I want those seals seated so I can get that snap ring back in there. There we go. I want it down far enough that I can get that O-ring in there, or that snap ring. This one, it's really kind of simple. And then get your snap ring down in there. So it holds everything in place. There we go. And if you've got it right, it'll set down in that groove. It's like that. Boom, just like a boss. Let me show you with the flashlight. See? Now it's set back in its groove. The seals are in. Everything's good. We're almost ready to put these forks together. But I have to cut the spacer. And I'm gonna clamp these in here. A rubber to protect them. And then I got my fork spring. And remember the cartridge, wherever I put it, well, I gotta find the fork cartridge. And so now the fork cartridge, after you tighten the dampening bolt, this will slide down on top of it. Then your spring sets on top of it. Yeah, this is all very, it's getting there. So we're gonna use thread lock on this dampener bolt. We don't want it to come loose when we're riding. Okay, so now that we've got our cartridge set up with the spring rate that's on the DVS sheet, we've got our dampening bolt torqued 29 foot-pounds with thread lock on it. We take our valve cartridge and it goes in this way. You see the valve cartridge little spring is up. So that cartridge, you drop it in with your colored spring up. Take your progressive fork spring, tight coil sides up. And we're going to measure. We're going to actually take wherever the spacer is we had. Kind of a mess here, huh? No. The spacer we took out of that front end is right here. And we're going to cut this spacer over here the same way we cut the last one. We're going to set this up on here. This way, actually. And we're going to measure it at, I got it wrote down in the back of the book. Fork spacer size is 3.55. Take my caliper, turn it back on, unlock it, set it to 3. I'm gonna set it back here to make sure I'm at 0. Calibrate it to 0. And then I'm at 3.5, 30.5 basically. So we're going to 30. Right there. Now I'll mark this spacer. I'll mark this spacer the same as I did the other one. They should be identical length. Yep. Take my chop saw down. I'm gonna cut this sucker. This is how you want to do it, guys, because it's too hard to get it straight if you don't use a chop saw. I went and bought the blades for it and everything. Look. Here we go. I want to make sure this thing's sitting flat. It don't feel like it is. It wasn't. You want it sitting flat, square. Okay. There it is. It's gonna be hot. Come on now. Yeah, woo, hot. Woo. And that spacer's gonna go in here. Where'd our washer thing go? Over here probably? Our washers? Huh. Stop being afraid of. We know this is one of them. Here's a fork hat. Here's the dude right here. So this guy drops in there. I gotta clean this up. Like a ship without behavior. It's a quick way to dress it up. Careful not to do this. Don't hurt your hand. Just a quick way to deburr it. Not the safest way. Sends shivers through my brain. Use me some sandpaper to clean it up. Yep, I like it. Give it a blast. Make sure it's contaminated free. Hit it with the air. I can find my, man, I spend more time looking for things than actually doing anything. Oh well, just wipe it off. So there's my spacer. Should be a 355, and it is. It's perfect. Goes in the top, on top of the other washer. This washer goes in here like this. Cap. A little oil on that seal. Goes in there like that. And that is how you install Race Tech fork emulators. Now these spacers, the length they're cut determines, like if it's this high, it's going to determine how tight that spring is. So the length I cut was measurements that I followed directions from the progressive fork springs, and you can too. But it's not a perfect science, everybody. If you cut a shim in here and your front end is too mushy, just pull your cap off and you can use PVC pipe and put your longer one in there until you get the desired feel you want. So that's the thing about it. That's what's cool about forks. And you can do that once you put the forks on the bike, jack it up, get the weight off the front end so the forks are extended, and then pull that spacer out and cut you 1.5 inch longer and put it in. Or if it's too stiff for you, cut a little off. But they both need to be the same. Anyway, everybody, we're going to finish up this after we get the bike together, and we're going to check it out and see how it goes. But that's basically the Race Tech fork valve. Okay, so I'm going to be using 15 weight fork oil. The book talks about a full all parts dry, which I had a fork rebuild. It is 14 to 14.3 US ounces. So got me my little cup right here, and we're going to put the fork oil in it, put it in. I'll let that drain all out because I want to be pretty accurate. So that was 10. I got 4 more to go. Here goes the other 4, making it 14 US ounces. Because my forks were totally taken apart. There was no residual oil left in them. Let that sit for a minute and we'll do the other fork.